Welcome to a new video! Today I'm going to share with you my Magistus deck profile. Now this deck is a really cool gimmick with the equip your own extra deck monsters to your monsters and kind of also locking your opponent, which just making this deck look really cool. And this is a deck that also finally got to Master Duel. So I also wanted to share and take a new spin on it and just give people in Master Duel what they want to see, essentially, with this deck. So this particular list, while it is going to be with physical cards, it's also for Master Duel and for the physical card game as well, just as one. It just, in Master Duel, just change the hand traps depending on what you want specifically and add just different kind of things depending on your own card choices. But on overall, like I said, the core of it is both for Master Duel and for the physical card game TCG as well. But before I jump right into the video itself, I'm going to remind you that if you want to see more videos like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It helps a ton. I know I haven't posted for a while, but I kind of just didn't really have the time, and now I'm going to have like 2 months or so that I can still do more videos. I'm going to start posting a little bit more frequently. So yeah, stick around. Maybe you'll see some other cool videos. Let me know in the comments down below what you will change for your list or some particular questions, and give a like to the video if you enjoyed. And without further ado, let's jump right into the video itself. Alright, starting things off with the, well, Magistus lineup, we're going to start things off with our 3 copies of Magistus Zoroa, or should I say Zoroa Magistus of Flame. This card is one of your 12 card starters that this deck have, which is 3 of this, the 3 Ruleona, the 3 Endymion, the Spell Power Mastery. These are 12 starters of your deck. But this deck specifically is not in the level of basically adding Gnister, even though we have 12 card starters, which is kind of like what a meta deck want to, because of the fact that this deck, A, doesn't really have the ability to put too many gates, or just an unbreakable boss monster, but also because of the fact that even all of your 12 card starters require an additional extender as well, so that's why this deck is not in the same level. But still, the fact that you have 12 card starters in your deck, or should I say 12 starters, is just really good. In the case of Zoroa, him and Endymion share the same following's first effect, which allowing you to target a Magistus monster you control and equip it with a Magistus monster from your extra deck. And this particular card also have the effect that if it get equipped with a Magistus monster card, you get the ability to special summon any level 4 spellcaster from your hand or graveyard in defense position, but its effect is negated, which is pretty important to just let you know. And also the fact that you can just not use you cannot use Zoroa to special summon Zoroa, which is also pretty important to know. I do think that part of the effect is stupid, but the fact is, you can just special summon any other level 4 spellcaster from your hand, which is just giving you the ability to start extending, so that's pretty good. Next up is the 3 copies of Endymion, which in my opinion is the better starter out of all of them, and for some reason doesn't really have a whole printing. Which is annoying, but the point of this card is that this card is kind of just the same thing as Zoroa, in the same first effect that can equip a Magistus monster with a monster from the extra deck. But the difference between this and Zoroa is that it has another effect that allows you to pop a spell card you control, a face-up spell card, and then you get to draw a card and put one on the bottom of your deck, which giving you the ability to cycle through your deck for hand traps, or even just take out cards that you don't want to in your hand. Like maybe you have 2 Endymions in your hand and you don't need 2, you just can put one at the bottom of your deck and just draw a different card, which is really good. And then for the last 3, for at least Magistus, we're playing 3 copies of Ruleona. This one is your Spell and Trap Searcher, or should I say just, Spell and Trap Searcher, but you only have spells for the moment, on normal or special summon. And the other effect is that you can choose to do that, but you rarely to ever never use that effect, is the fact that you can just return a level 4 banished spellcaster monster to your graveyard. That effect you're never going to use, you're just going to use the search for spell or trap, which you have 7 spells in your deck, which is pretty cool. The other effect that this card have is the effect in the graveyard, which that's why she has the secondary effect, but like I said, doesn't really matter, is the effect that you can banish this card from your graveyard. This and the next Magistus monster that I'm going to show you are sharing this effect, that you can banish them from the graveyard to target a Magistus monster you control and equip it with a Magistus monster from your graveyard that is not a level 4. So any of your extra deck monsters, basically. You cannot equip it with any of your main deck monsters because all of them are level 4, but any of your extra deck monsters that if they're in the graveyard, you can just equip them. So for example, with Calamity, you can just banish this if it's in your graveyard, and just instead of just having one extra deck monsters that you can lock to because it equip itself on summon, you can also just equip, for example, the Artemis, the Link, and essentially just lock your opponent from, for example, a Synchro and a Link, which is very, very cool. So that's something to know about her. And then the last one is 2 copies of Crowley, which is just basically an extender. You don't really need to run this card at 3 because it's absolutely unnecessary. But if you want to, you can bump this card up to 3 if you feel like it. But this card has the following effect: that it can send any spellcaster from your hand or face up from the field to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. It can also change its attribute to whatever attribute you want to until the end of the turn, which is really, really good with the Endymion, because this plus Endymion equal Bahamut Shark, which is totally awesome. So that is also another thing to just, count on. But the last thing that is also important is the same effect that Riliona have in Grave. You just banish this to equip a Magistus monster with a Magistus monster from Grave that is not a level 4. But that does it for the Magistus lineup monsters. We only have 4 of them and only 11 on the overall. And then the additional supporting spellcasters, we're running 1 copy of each of the clowns, which sometimes I'm actually considering maybe bumping up, but I think overall this is the best ratio because you don't want to see too many of these. You could technically maybe just run a second Dama Juggler and maybe a second Hot Tricker. I think Trick Clown is probably the one that you don't want to run it to, but again, it's totally up to you. You can just bump these all to 2 if you want to see more spellcasters, because most of your combos are just opening up with one of your 9 or, like I said, 12 starters plus a spellcaster or one of your other extenders. So you could make the argument that you can just bump these up, but I felt like one of each of these is just more than enough in the deck, so I see them consistently enough, and that's completely fine. But like I said, it's up to you what you want to do with your own deck. But that does it for the monster lineup, only 14 that you use. Then for the hand traps, we have 3 copies of Ash Blossom, 2 copies of Nibiru, the Primal Being, 2 copies of Effect Veiler, and 2 copies of Draw and Lockbird, which are both spellcaster hand traps, which are also can be used as extenders, because sometimes you do special summon with them with the Zoroa, just giving you the ability to maybe extend, or, just in general, they can be used as a discard material for Crowley. So this just really, really good about these guys. So there are additional, 4 names, so basically you have 18 spellcasters, even though they're not level 4, which is pretty cool. Draw and Lockbird is actually not the worst thing in the format, although I'm not 100% sure I want to keep it. I might actually just going to cut it down to 1 and put an Effect Veiler, and just have 3 effect, 1 draw, 2 Nibiru, and 3 Ash Blossom, which I think is just fine. But overall, it's been working quite okay. Honestly, just up to your own personal preference, what do you want to go with? But yeah, hand traps are very, really important in a deck like this, because your own monsters don't really do a whole lot, in terms of negations. You kind of just depend on these cards to just stop your opponent, or just be serving as your additional kind of hate against monsters. But that does it for the monster lineup as an overall, including the hand traps. Now we'll move on into the spells. And for the spells, we have 7 Magistus spells, which are the 3 Trice Magistus, 2 Magistus Vritras, and then 1 copy of the Invocation, and 1 copy of Thermagy. These are all your fusion, or should I say not fusion spells, but spells that you need for Magistus. Thermagy is basically another equip that allowing you to equip from your Magistus monster with the monsters that accept a level 4 from your extra deck, graveyard, or face up from your field if you need to. And it's a quick play spell, so you can just immediately activate this if you want to. Let's say you're facing a branded deck and you weren't prepared for it for some reason, you can just equip immediately from the extra deck the fusion monster and then just lock them immediately with your Calamity, so that's actually kind of cool. In the case of the Invocation, this card is absolutely amazing because you can also use your equipped monsters as fusion material, and I believe you have to use 1 monster on the field, but you can also use monster from your equip as a material as long as one of them is a spellcaster. So basically you can just use one of your Xyz monsters as a spellcaster, or one of your spellcasters in general, and just basically use one of the equips. I believe you can use both of the equips, but I'm not 100% sure, so don't catch me on that word. But the point is, at least use 1 spellcaster, and then you can just summon any monsters that you want to. As long as you fusion summon a Magistus monster, you can use your equip cards. which is pretty cool. Vritra is just an in-archetype monster reborn, and also a protection for your particular monster. So for example, if you have the big boss monster, it's basically going to save it for once per turn, which is really, really cool. And then Tri's Magistus is your free special summon from hand for any level 4 spellcaster. And if you have multiple of them, you can just decide not to use the first effect and just send this to the graveyard to then special summon multiple Magistus monsters from your hand with different names, which you can only use one of the effect per turn, but it's still really good. And it's also protecting your equip spells once per turn. If the a Magistus equip spell will be destroyed by battle or by card effect, or should I say, if a Magistus monster will be destroyed with an equip card will be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not destroyed. So sorry, that's the effect. It's not protecting your equips, it's protecting your monster. So basically you have 2 protection if you use these 2 cards with its own effect if it's on the field, and with this card as well, so that's kind of cool. And that's kind of just very, very nice that you have protection to your own monsters. But that does it for the Magistus spells, specifically for the deck. Now for the additional spells that are helping you, we have 3 copies of Spell Power Master, which just specifically search your Endymion. We have 2 copies of Pot of Desires, 1 copy of Foolish Burial, and 1 copy of Called by the Grave. These are your additional consistency card / protection card. Called by the Grave, I don't really think I need to explain. It's just a god card. Foolish Burial, just giving you the ability to just see specifically if you need Damage Juggler, Trick Clown, if you need another extender, or if you just want specifically another equip again, you could use this card to just send one of your cards that you wanted to the graveyard and just like get it, which is just really cool. Most of the time you just only have 2 targets, but those 2 targets are more than enough, trust me, and you actually want to use this card. Pot of Desire is absolutely amazing in the deck. You have, like I said, 12 starters. You just need to see a starter and an extender, and having the ability to, even after your combos, dig deeper into your hand traps and stuff like that is just really, really good. You could make the argument that this card does make your deck worse, but that's up to you. You can cut this and add like a Monster Reborn and a Harpy Feather Duster if you feel like it, but I felt it just giving me the ability to just dig deeper into my deck and giving me additional 2 cards in my hand, which could be really, really important. And then Power Mastery is just a way to see Endymion, which is an additional consistency card, so that's why we want to run this card at 3 as well. And like I said, if you see multiple Endymions, you can just use his own effect to put one of them in the bottom of the deck, so that's not the end of the world. And then for the only trap that will run in the deck, 3 Infinite Impermanence to rump up to 12 hand traps, which I think is the correct number for this deck. And yeah, that's pretty much does it for that. But that does it for the main deck. Now we'll move on into the extra deck. For the extra deck, we only have 1 fusion monster, which is Iwis. This card is the card that you equip if you want to, but most of the time I'm actually using this as a card that if I use Invocation, I can just use this to steal an opponent monster by its own effect, and then it becomes an equip regardless, so it works quite well. But in desperate situations against Branded, you always have the ability to just equip this card and just go with it, which is pretty cool. And then for the synchros, we have 3, which are these 3, which are Vram, which is mostly just used for an equip, Calamity, which is your main win condition, and Savage, if you have the ability to, you just summon this and it's an Omnigate. Also in the case of this one, if it's in the graveyard, you can destroy one of your Magistus cards on the field, and then special summon it back, and if you have additional, like, you know, let's say Rilionas and Crowley's in grave, you can just banish them and just immediately equip him again, so that's not really a problem with this card, and you technically only need just the 1. Now, one thing I would say, however, is that all of the monsters that can equip themselves kind of also give an additional effect except this to the monster, but mostly that's thing that I think you should figure out to yourself, because it's just a little bit of a chore to explain these, trust me. Mostly you just use them for the lock with Calamity. You don't really read them for their own thing. And then for the Xyz, 1 Totally Awesome, 1 Wardrobe, 1 Nina Ruru, 1 number 31, 1 Bahamut Shark, and 1 Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Tanda. These are your Xyz monsters, totally awesome. Bahamut Shark are just working together. Wardrobe is just a card that summons the Magistus directly from your deck. You only need one, even though sometimes I felt like I wanted the second one, but this one just summons a monster directly from your deck, which is allowing you to get to your Zoroa, which is then allowing you to get immediately into your Calamity, which is very, very good. Ninaruru is just here for being equipped, for the most part, as the Xyz name. Baguska is if you're getting, you bricked, or you specifically able to make this card as well. I believe it only stopped activated effects, so technically I don't think it's kind of like stops Calamity effect as an overall, but most of the time you're just not using this and Calamity anyway. You just use this card as the additional, interruption if you're not able to go into Calamity and your opponent kind of stop you, but you still open up with 2 level 4 spellcasters and whatever, and for some reason you don't have this. This is just to prolong the game. I don't know. It's kind of like a really, really good card if you need the additional kind of just, like I said, prolonging the game for 2 turns. Then Bahamut Shark, like I said, and double A Zeus if you're able to attack with like a Bahamut Shark or a Baguska in a turn after you prolong the game enough. For 1 turn, attack with it, summon the Zeus, and there you go, you have a board wipe. Although Zeus is not the best in this deck because most of your monsters are pretty small, it's still a very, very good Xyz monster as an overall, so it's still more than enough. And then for the links, the 2 Artemis, because it's absolutely mandatory to at least play 2, the 1 Crystal High Fibrex, the Selene, and the card that should be access code if you have the money for it. If you have access code, it definitely should be access code, because access code is a card that doesn't require free monsters and doesn't really work like Evermax that require a card that 2 monsters summoned from the extra deck. So this should be access code. I'm probably going to put the picture on the screen. But the point is, the first one is for your combo plays. The second one is for your OTKs. Because what do you do for the second one? You just basically equip this with any of your monsters like Endymion or Zora. You just equip it into it. You just search the monsters that you need to, the spellcaster or whatever. Most of the time it's just going to be the Zora itself. You just want this with Zora. You special summon the Zoroa somehow, you go with this in your Crystal Haki Fibrex, which one of your Fibrex summon an Effect Veiler, Anatosh Blossom, whatever. You summon this, you have enough equips or spells and traps in grave, or should I say spell in grave. You use the effect, revive one of your monsters in defense position, and then go into an access code. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple, and just very, very good as a kind of just finishing your opponent as an overall. Like I said, if you have access code, definitely put access code. I just don't have access code. It's still like a $50 card, and I'm not really sure I want to spend that much money on an access code. But that's pretty much does it for the deck profile as an overall. Now let's move on into the combo section, which I have quite a few combos to share with you guys. Welcome to the combo section. In the combo section, I'm going to share with you a few combos that I think are very, very important for you to know playing this deck. Now, there are going to be few combos that are basically from the previous list as well, just to, how should I say, refresh people's memory if they don't remember, or just give them as important combos for people who are just picking this deck up. But I also have additional combos here that are new that I thought of, and just in general I think are very, very important. But now let's jump right into it. So the first combo is going to be the Zoro, one of the Zoro line combos, which is required to open up with it, of course, and the other cards that you need to open up with is Magistus. Now, this combo line is fairly simple, but it's still very, very important to know, so let's get started. So to start things off, we're going to normal summon the Zoroa, and then we're going to use this effect to equip the Artemis. Artemis effect will now add to our hand the copy of Riliona, and now we're going to activate the Magistus, and we're going to use Magistus effect to special summon the Riliona. Riliona effect, you're going to grab the Thermagy, or you can grab any other card that you want to from your spell and trap department, which can be another Vritra, or it can be a Vritra for a follow-up, or if you have additional plays, maybe grab the Invocation just to get a fusion spell. But for the more simpler combo line, I'm going to grab this. Now we're going to take these two specifically because they're together a level 8 Synchro. And we're going to Synchro Summon, of course, into our Calamity immediately. We don't really need to go into anything deeper. This is basically all we need to do. Now, granted, you could go deeper into, like, what her name, Wardrobe, but there's really no reason to do that, so might as well just go into this and that's it. And now we're going to use this effect to equip directly from our extra deck the copy of the Synchro, which is Vram. Now we're going to use Reliona effect. We're going to banish her, and we're going to equip the Artemis directly from our graveyard. And now we're going to set the Thermagy and pass the turn to our opponent. Now this may not look super impressive, but the point is we already have from 2 cards, and without just really going deep into our extra deck, so we'll have additional kind of like follow-up cards, which is really good. We're able to basically get another free special summon for next turn, because this card is not a hard once per turn effect, or should I say, like, you know, it's not really just one-time use effect, it's just the second effect is the one-time use if you decide to summon multiples, so it's still just a free special summon next turn. We have the lock for Synchro and Links, and we also have an additional summoning mechanics that we can lock, which can be either an Xyz or a Fusion, depending on the particular point that we want to. But that does it for combo number 1. Let's move on into combo number 2. Alright, so for the second combo, we're going to continue off with this Zoroa combo line, or the second 2-card combo with Zoroa, which is open up with Zoroa and any other level 4 spellcaster. It can be another copy of Zoroa, I believe, because it can summon itself. Actually, no, it cannot summon itself, but it can be any other level 4 spellcaster as long as you just open up with this. Can be an Endymion, can be a Crowley, but for these particular point, I'm using Crowley because it's the easiest one to consider as a vanilla. But now let's get started. So starting things off, we're going to normal summon the Zoroa as before, use this effect to equip the Artemis, and then trigger the effect to special summon this out of your hand. Now we're going to use Artemis effect. We're going to add from our deck to our hand any card that we want to from our Magistus lineup. We're not going to use that, so I'm going to add the Endymion as a follow-up for next turn. And now we're going to Xyz with these 2 in your copy of Wardrobe. Wardrobe effect, detach specifically the Zoroa. We want this in our graveyard. And then we're going to special summon directly from our deck the Ver. Ver effect will add to your hand the Vritra. And now we're going to activate the Vritra and special summon the Zoroa once again. Now we're going to take Zoroa and the Vritra, and or should I say not Vritra, the Reliona, and we're going to synchro summon once again into our copy of Calamity. Now we're going to use Calamity effect. We're going to equip 1 equip, and then we're going to use Reliona effect, banish herself, and equip the Link in our graveyard. In this particular combo, we just got ourselves a follow-up, and we still have this with the 2 locks, which are the preferred 2 locks normally. Now, of course, like I said, you can always just use any of these if you feel like you want something else, but this is pretty much the 2 standard ones that you want to go to every single game if you don't know what you're dealing with. But if you're with an Exceed heavy meta, you go into this, and if you're in a Fusion heavy locals, even though this should use for the Fusion spell, you can go into this. But that does it for combo number 2. Now we're going to go into other 2 cards combo lines that don't include Zoroa. Alright, so for our third combo, we're going to go into the Reliona combos, and the combo with Reliona require once again to open up with Reliona and any level 4 spellcaster. Basically, it's going to be the combo line of like a new one, an old combo, a new combo, an old combo. That's the way how the combo section is going to work for the most part. So this is one of the new combos that I haven't shown on the channel yet. But in the case of Reliona, this is basically going to get you the same end board as the previous one, but you just need to open up with this. So how do we do this? So starting things off, we're going to normal summon the Reliona, and we're going to use her effect to grab the Magistus. We're now going to activate the Magistus, and we're going to special summon the spellcaster in our hand. Now we're going to use these 2, and we're going to go into Wardrobe, and we're going to use Wardrobe effect to detach a material and special summon directly from our deck, of course, the Zoroa. Zoroa effect will equip the Artemis to itself, and then we don't really have a target for him, but we still have the, or should I say, we do have actually a target for him. What am I talking about? We do have the Crowley Engrave. I forgot that you can also use this card Engrave. And we also have this card that can search for us an Endymion next turn. I don't know why I forgot about that for a second. Point is, we have this for next turn, we have the same thing, and now we're going to synchro summon. Once again, this goes to grave, by the way, and we're going to go into our copy of Calamity, which I basically put it here. And now we're going to equip, once again, any extra deck monsters that you want to. Banish the Crowley this time, and equip the, well, Link to your monster, basically giving you, once again, the 2 locks, and essentially Once again, you can choose whatever one you want to if you don't want this. But that does it for combo number 3. Now move on to combo number 4. In the 4 card combo, we're going to basically go into the Endymion lines, or should I say the 2 card combos for Endymions. And basically the first one out of the 2 is Endymion plus any level 4 spellcaster. In this particular case, I chose Riliona because I just wanted to equips effect, just to show you that could happen. Also, I chose her instead of the Crowley because Crowley is a card that you want to search in this combo, so I wanted to show what happened if you don't have that option. So, now let's get started. Starting things off, we're going to normal summon the Endymion effect. We'll equip the Artemis to your Endymion. That will give Endymion the Artemis, you're going to use her effect, and we're going to add from our deck to our hand the copy of Crowley. Now in this particular case, you could use Endymion effect, popping the Artemis, and then drawing a card and put one on the bottom of your deck if you want to fix your hand. But in this particular case, we're not going to do that because this is a locked combo. So in this particular way, we're going to use Crowley effect to discard the Riliona, and we're going to special summon it to our side of the field. Since we don't really have another extender, we're not going to change this into a level 4, or should I say into a water and go into a totally awesome, although that's an option if you have another spellcaster and extender. But in this particular case, we don't. So in this particular way, we're going to take these 2. This goes to grave, and we're going to go once again into wardrobe. You want to detach specifically the Crowley, because you want the equip effect, and we're going to special summon directly from our deck the Zoroa once again. Zoroa effect will equip, in this particular case, let's equip the Xyz, and then we're going to use this effect to revive back the Crowley. Crowley plus Zoroa, this goes to grave. We're going to go into our copy of Zoroa Calamity, which is the synchro, and then we're going to use Zoroa Calamity effect to equip the synchro, the other one, and then we're going to banish Crowley. And since in this particular case we did open up with Ver, we're going to banish her as well, and essentially in 2 different chains as well, equip the 2 other monsters that we have in our graveyard. Granted, this can also be the fusion or whatever you want to, but this is a particular way that you mostly do it standard, because most of the time you want to save this for the fusion spell, but if you have to, you do equip this one. It's just good to save this for the fusion spell because it's just a really, really good card, and from the next combo I will show you why it's so good. So that does it for combo number 4. Now let's move on into combo number 5, which is once again a newer combo. Alright, so for our next and final 2-card combo, I'm going to actually share with you what happened if you open up with Endymion plus Trice Magistus. Now this particular combo is a combo that I don't know why I didn't really think about this before, because this combo is absolutely ridiculous, probably the strongest one out of the 2-card combos, and I will show you why, because this particular way you can also get the fusion monster on your side of the field. Just really, really powerful and very, very strong. So let's get started by normal summoning Endymion once again. Uses effect to equip the Artemis. Artemis effect will grab to our hand the copy of Riliona, and now we're going to activate the Trimagistus and special summon the Riliona. Riliona effect, we're going to grab the fusion spell to our hand, and then we're going to use these 2. This goes to grave, by the way, and we're going to special summon the wardrobe. We're going to detach one of wardrobe materials, it doesn't matter which one this time around actually, and we're going to special summon the Zoroa. Zoroa effect will equip to himself the Xyz, and we're going to use his effect to special summon back the Riliona. Now, something that actually I don't know why I didn't really think about before, we're going to activate the fusion spell using this as our spellcaster. And because what I mentioned before in the deck profile, you could use a Magistus fusion monster this way. You can also use monster in your spell and trap zones as equipped to a Magistus monster as fusion materials. So this is a Magistus monster, which is one of the requirements, and this is a spellcaster, which is one of the requirements, and this is an equip which we can use. So the cards that we're going to use are both of our Xyz, because, well, this card doesn't really say that you don't need to use an Xyz, you just need a Magistus monster and a spellcaster. So we're going to use both of these to fusion summon into our, well, Iwas. Now we're going to synchro summon. We're going to go into Calamity, and Calamity is going to equip the Synchro. Now, effect of Riliona, banish, and we're going to equip either the Link or the Xyz. My most preferred choice is the Link, because the Link can also be used for a follow-up, and also because the fact that Link is more popular than Xyz to just break boards. But in this particular end board, you once again ended up on the Calamity, but the better end board here is that you also have an Fusion Lock and a Fusion Steel, because this will just steal an opponent monster and equip it to it. Normally you cannot use its effect, but you stole a monster, you negated kind of its effect, you gave it 1000 attack and 1000 defense boost, and you locked your opponent out of fusion monsters from the extra deck as well, which is also a very popular mechanic right now. So yeah, that does it for the 5th combo, which, like I said, in my opinion, is the better, or should I say the best 2-hand combo that I could come up with for the time being. Now let's move on into the 3-card combos, which I have 2 of them. Alright, so for our 6th combo, yes, I finally did a video with more than 5 combos. For our 6th combo, we need to open up with Endymion, with Riliona, and the Magistus. This particular combo, if you already know what that is the Totally Awesome line. And the 3-card combos are most of the time the combos that also allow you to play around Nibiru, because they are going to give you an Omni Negate, so you can technically save that Omni Negate if they don't have the Nibiru, which is kind of like a nice on top, but if they do have the Nibiru, you do have a way to just still put the Calamity and have no problem with it. But now let's get started with this combo. So to start things off, we're going to normal summon the Endymion, as always, and use his effect to equip the Artemis. Artemis effect will grab to our hand the copy of Crowley, and now we're going to activate Magistus, not use his effect, but the second one, send it to the graveyard, which is its secondary effect. You can send this face-up card from the spell and trap zones to the graveyard, and then special summon any number of Magistus with different names, and we're going to special summon these 2 from our hand, because, you know, that's how that works. Riliona effect, we're going to grab to our hand that copy of Ritra, and we're going to change this one into a water. Now we're going to use these 2. We're going to go into a Bahamut Shark, this goes to grave, and we're going to detach one of the materials to summon to our side of the field the Totally Awesome, which is a really, really cool option to do. Now we're going to use the effect of Ritra to revive the monsters that we detached to our side of the field, and we're going to Xyz with these 2 into your copy of Wardrobe. Wardrobe effect, we're going to detach one of the materials, and we're going to special summon the Zoroa. Zoroa effect, we're going to equip the Xyz, or the Fusion if you want to, and now we're going to revive from our graveyard the, the level 4 that we sent to the graveyard. Now we're going to take it and the Zoroa, this goes to grave, and we're going to summon the, Calamity. Use his effect, we're going to equip the Synchro, and then use its secondary, or should I say not the secondary effect, but the effect of the Crowley Engrave or the Riliona, depending on the one that you have, and then we're going to equip either the Synchro, or should I say either the Xyz or the Link. In this particular case, I chose the Link. And yeah, that does it for the Totally Awesome line. Basically, an additional card will kind of just giving you an Omni Negate on top of your already really, really cool board. So that does it for combo line of 3-card combos with Endymion. Now we'll do the same thing, but with Zoroa, which is kind of giving you an Omni Negate, but in the Synchro version. Alright, so in our 7th and final combo, we basically open up once again with 3 cards, which are going to be the Zoroa, the Magistus, and the last card can be any level 4 spellcaster. In this particular case, I'm just going to use the Crowley. So let's get started. Starting things off, we're going to normal summon and use his effect to look up the Artemis, effect to special summon the Crowley, and then this effect will grab to our hand the Riliona. This is later. Now we're going to activate the Magistus, and we're going to special summon the Riliona, which then will grab to our hand the Vritra. Now on this particular point, you could go Wardrobe and just do crazy shenanigans, but it's really unnecessary for any point. So instead, we're going to take these two, because we didn't lock ourselves yet, and there's really no reason to do that. And we're going to go into our copy of Borreload Salvage Dragon, which is again going to equip the copy of Artemis. Now, what we're going to do is that we're going to use the effect of Vritra, not her, the effect of Vritra, to revive this, to then use these two to synchro summon into your Calamity. Not you, the Calamity. This is the equip. I don't know why it wasn't organized. But the point is, this is basically the 2-card combo. You didn't go into your wardrobe, and you basically kind of just didn't commit. And one really, really cool thing about this combo is that if your opponent killed this card, right, you can still use this effect during the opponent's turn, which allowing you to target one Magistus card you control and destroy it, which could be this card, if your opponent wiped the entire board, and you still have these 2 cards engraved, which can equip these 2 back right to it, which giving you the additional search and the additional things that you need to follow up for next turn. So this particular combo, while not explosive and just using a lot of cards in your extra deck, just like the Endymion lines, it's very, very contained in a way that it's just giving you a really, really good follow-up, regardless, because you have just a good lineup of cards engraved that are sitting there with the 2 banishes that giving you the additional 2 equips, and the additional card that you can pop if your opponent doesn't pop your back row to then revive this back, which is also very, very good, and essentially also 2 cards in your hand left for next turn. But that does it for combo number 7, and does it for the end line combos as an overall. That does it for the video as an overall for the entire thing. Now let's move on to the next deck choices. Alright, so for the next deck choices, well, I had to take down Dark Lords because apparently my order of cards didn't arrive because the fact that they cancelled it, it's kind of like arrived and then just was sent back for some weird reason. I don't know, I got my money back, don't worry about it, but it still was really, really annoying because card that I kind of just counted on ordering for like Dark Lords and stuff like that, basically just sent back and now they're a little bit more expensive, so that's a shame. But at least I didn't lose my money for that, so I'm going to put Dark Lords for the time being into the side, unfortunately, and instead of it, we're going to put both Altergeist and Frogs because these are decks that I haven't done for a while. The other 2 options are once again still Dragunity and what the other one is, Lyrilusk, which technically I might even change to just overall Tri-Brigades because I have so many kind of like Tri-Beast decks that I want to just maybe do again, so I may be even going to do a Tri-Brigade month or a few weeks, we'll see. So these are particular options that you have at the moment, which are going to be, once again, Frogs, Altergeist, Dragunity, and essentially Lyrilusk / Tri-Brigade, whatever. And yeah, that's pretty much the options. And let me know in the comments down below which one you want to see first. But that's pretty much does it for the video and does it for the deck profile as a whole. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something new. Give a like to the video if you enjoy once again. Remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, stay safe, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. Bye-bye.